Months after the theatrical release, I finally managed to watch the sequel to one of the greatest 80s films of all time, and probably the winner to film with most versions out there that people still are not entirely sure which is the canonical, true version of the film. That original was Blade Runner. This is Blade Runner 2049, starring Harrison Ford, Jared Leto, and of course Ryan Gosling. And it's a really good follow-up. I'm very impressed. It's obviously helmed by Denis Villeneuve, who many people know as a guy who's got a great eye for beauty, a great eye for really good visual storytelling, and yeah, the shots in this are sumptuous. I don't use that word very often. In fact, I think that's the first time I've ever used it in a sentence. But it's appropriate. They are just very gorgeous. The scenes are all just wonders to look at. It's very similar in ways to how I felt when I saw Prometheus in the cinema. It was just amazing in 3D, these beautiful vistas brought to life, and this is something that Villeneuve seems to have brought to this. I mean, he's a great French-Canadian director. I've not seen much of his works, but I'm definitely going to check more out. But we're not here just to kind of go, oh, how does it look? You know, a film stands on very many elements, and look is just one of them. But I'm happy to say that on almost all fronts, it does stand up very well. The casting, well, of course, we had to have Harrison Ford come back. You know, if Rutger Hauer wasn't going to come back, obviously, because, you know, Roy Batty's dead, then we have to have Ford. It's definitely been a very weird thing lately of him reprising roles. You know, it's almost like a new cliche that's possibly being created. But, you know, he does a really good job. He's you know, actually interested in it. I mean, I know how it came out with The Force Awakens that he wasn't really that bothered. It was like, look, just write me out, please. But this, he actually feels like he's happy to be in the world again. I mean, that said, a film that pitches itself as starring Harrison Ford but doesn't use him for the first 2 hours-ish of its 2 hour 40-odd minute runtime is a little cheeky. But we let it off because it's enabling us to see the differences in the world now. We get to know what's happened to the Tyrell Corporation. You know, the fact that it's gone under after the Nexus 8, which had an indeterminate lifespan. And now that the Wallace Corporation's taken over, you know, they're trying to make them, well, more human than human. Or more human than human, I guess. But there is that spark that is just out of reach, which is Jared Leto's whole motivation for this film. I feel he's very underutilised. He seems to be in like about 2 or 3 scenes. That's it. He's one of the lesser elements, I suppose, of this story. I don't think that there was enough of him, you know, and also there's a lot of creepiness to him. It seems to be Jared Leto's characters these days are just creepy. Maybe that's another cliche in the works. But I've not really been exposed very much to the other big main star of this, Ryan Gosling. I've got things that he's in on my list of things to watch, but I've not seen very much that he's been in. It's not something that's really occurred, you know. But if this is his basic level, I'm really quite eager to get onto my my backlog of films to watch. Particularly the Nicholas Winding Refn films, because they're a joy, apparently, in so many ways. And a lot of them, of course, you know, do have Gosling in. But he does a great job as Kay, and, you know, gives us one of the great emotional arcs, really, of the whole film. You know, we believe, like him, that he is perhaps the child of Rachel. Which again is a very interesting plot point that, you know, ties it back in. I do like the fact they've tried to do that. You know, they've kept it consistent. I mean, people have pulled it apart. You know, I've seen people going, well, he couldn't have been because he's always got these baseline checks. You know, they're going to know his serial number, etc. They're going to be able to find that and prove that he's not, you know, Rachel's child. And when you start to think of it that way, yes, okay, it was very poor as, you know, an idea. But he sells it so well. He sells the fact that he believes. And even though the logical part of your brain says all of these things, that he couldn't be, Wallace would know, you still believe it. You still feel when he's there talking to the doctor, who we find out is the actual daughter, the actual child of Rachel, you know, when he's talking to her and it's like, no, someone lived these memories, you know, the facial expression, just Kay's face. I mean, let's just look at it.
Someone lived this, yes. This happened.
That is the face of someone saying, my whole life up to now could have been a lie. I could be this person that I'm looking for. The fact that, you know, he's been granted the memory is a massive, massive plot convenience, you could argue. But again, if someone else, if another Wallace creation, replicant, had had these memories, would they have followed the threats? Would we have got this resolution and understanding? No, because someone wrote the story to be this way. But taking it in universe, you know, it's very, very possible that no other being with these memories implanted would have followed the threads as well as Kay did. Kay's a good detective as much as anything else. And this is definitely shown. It comes through in his character, in how he approaches everything in this film. And he's just so warm. You want to believe, like I say, that he is the child, the long lost progeny, I guess, of, you know, of Rachel, this miracle. And of course, you know, we have the telling at the start from Drax, Dave Bautista, you know, and it's like, you haven't seen a miracle. You know, we're given all these things, and some have said they don't like the sort of memory echoes that come through, you know, the lines, but I think it helps. It gets us into Kay's mindset. This is what he's thinking. He's remembering these things, and we're being told. You know, yes, there's other ways of doing it perhaps, but I think none of them would have been any less cheesy. But, you know, it does give us this thread, and like I say, Gosling does a great job. But then, of course, you know, we have Love, who is an interesting antagonist, because at the start she sounds like she's very much on board and trying to help and do good. But then she kills poor old David Dasmalkian, a guy who seems to crop up in so many things and gets killed off in less than pleasant ways. I do feel sorry for the guy. But, you know, he gets bumped off, and, you know, she slowly but surely brings in this malice, this creepy factor, I guess, to Love's character, and how she's really fixated on just clearing this whole mess up so that Wallace can do whatever. You know, she serves Wallace. It's what she said when we first saw her. She serves Wallace, and whatever Wallace wants or needs, he will get. Whether that involves her killing, maiming, burning, whatever it takes, she will do. And you really, or at least I'm not going to make any claims as to what you should feel, but I really kind of felt this growing sense of hatred for her as the time went on. You know, she really just is out for a very specific goal. But this is all, you know, great casting and great acting. The other major sort of female character, I guess, aside from Dr. Anna, is Joy. This is a very weird angle, because we're in a world now where we can have something of a level of holographic technology. We have, you know, VR and AR. It's not that far removed from what we can possibly do, but this is just giving it a sort of... It's like Siri with a body, you know, Siri that you can see. And I think this, again, was very well portrayed, giving us the pathos, you know, the fact that she's been coded in such a way that she really wants to get close to Kay. She really feels this bond, and she wants to do what she can to make this relationship work. You know, she's overjoyed when she's been able to, you know, go out with him, put in the device, and arranges this whole weird physical element to their relationship, which is really creepy, but it's, again, very serving of the plot. It's one of those things, again, where if you want to be a bit harsh about it, you can, because it's very convenient she chooses the one who's part of these group of people who are trying to further, you know, the life of the chosen one, of this miracle child. You know, it's very, very convenient. But, you know, it just shows, I think, Joy's desire to be more human than she is. You know, she wants to feel, she wants to have this bond with Kay, because she already does have a bond with Kay, if you think about it. She spent so much time with him, living with him, being an aid to him, and just an ear, if he needs one at the end of the day, that she knows him better than anyone else ever could. Even Wallace, even the police. I don't think anyone could know him anywhere near as much as she does, because he can just be open and free with her. And that's kind of beautiful. You know, the fact that this AI, this virtual girl, wants just to be human, or at least as close to human as she can. You know, and it is quite sad when the device is destroyed. I really felt quite upset. Again, you know, it's all sold in how she's playing it. It's all sold in the malice of Love's face, you know, when she's like, haha, I've got you now, I'm gonna get rid of this. And Ryan Gosling just portrays this loss very well. But how does it stack up with the original? That's, I think, what most people really think about with this film. And, you know, there are going to be certain things that you've got to change, you've got to adjust, and I know that, you know, Denis Villeneuve had to look at what version suited best for him to use as the jumping off point. Was it the definitive version? Was it the original theatrical cut? You know, and he settled on one. I can't remember off the top of my head which one it is. I'm going to probably put underneath me here which one when it comes to editing, but, you know, he's chosen one and stuck with it. And I did see one minor gripe, I guess, in that when they go and talk to Gaff, he's suddenly speaking English. He's not speaking the city speak, which was a you know, conglomeration of various different languages. And we hear people speaking Finnish and, you know, Korean and things like that, but, you know, city speak was this weird thing where it was a bunch of different languages, and that's all Gaff spoke, but he's speaking clear English. I don't know if it's just because Mr. Olmos didn't want to do all of that again. I don't know, but it's a minor gripe. But aside from that, I think this is a very good follow-up. It brings us back into the world seamlessly. You know, we get a lot of characters who we can sort of learn what the world's like through and really feel through. And we've got the same basic premise. We've got people who aren't human wanting to be as human as they can, or even more so. I hate to keep using that line, but, you know, it's the line that really, I think, cements the Blade Runner universe. More human than human. You know, Wallace's desire to recreate this idea of being able to have them procreate. Kay's desire to be maybe this miracle child. What does that make him? Is he closer to human because he's actually born of woman? You know, the threads are picked up and resolved in a way that works for this film. You know, I think there's still a lot of questions there. It's like, well, does Anna have the ability? Can this be passed on? If Wallace did get a hold of her, could he sort of, you know, retrofit her, I guess, you know, or reverse engineer it from her? But I think, taken as a follow-up and taken on its own, I enjoyed it. There are some films that are 2 hours that feel more like 3 hours, and is it me or is it getting dark? That's what happens when you decide to film on a day where you might get a snowstorm. Maybe it's telling me to wrap it up a bit, so I will. So yeah, some films, you know, feel much longer than they are, but this, at 2 hours 47 minutes, I want to say, didn't feel that. It felt as long as it needed to be. Yes, perhaps some shots did drag on a bit, but it just helped, I don't know, center me in the world a little, and I really enjoyed it. I only came late to Blade Runner. It was actually after the Red Dwarf series that, you know, sort of went back to Earth and had all the references. I was told I needed to watch it, and I hadn't until that point. So I watched it, and I enjoyed the world, you know, and what it could be, and I'm glad we got something that's added to that. So I'm really going to wrap it up now before it gets any darker. So until next time, as always, take care.